All right, the U.S. Senate started debating the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act today, one day after Democrats failed to meet their self-imposed deadline to take over elections by Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
The eyes of the nation will be watching what happens this week in the United States Senate. Just a few days removed from what would have been Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s 93rd birthday, the Senate has begun the debate on the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act.
Yes, Americans will be watching, but I don't think they're going to see what Mr. Schumer wants them to see. Joining me now to give us an update on what is happening on Capitol Hill in the Senate chamber is Senator Mike Rounds of South Dakota, who serves on 5 committees in the Senate, including the Armed Services Committee and the Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs. Senator, welcome back to the program.
Tony, thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right, give us the latest on this effort by Democrats to take over elections, and if they fail at that, trying to change the Senate rules.
Yeah, look, in the United States Senate, it has always taken a consensus of at least 60 of the 100 in order to move legislation forward. It's very clear that these 2 particular pieces of legislation are not necessarily designed to make it easier to vote, but what they are doing is saying that they think that the federal government should dictate what the states do with regard to their voting laws. Just as an example, and these are specific examples, they want felons to have the right to vote. Now, I think if the states want felons to have the right to vote, then they can justify it to their local communities. But you're not finding the vast majority of states wanting felons to be able to have the right to vote. Second of all, they want to make the election day a federal holiday. That would cost millions of dollars, and basically you're going to look at a lot of your private businesses looking at additional costs involved in that. Furthermore, they want motor voter registration. They want every Department of Motor Vehicles to have to register people as voters. Motor vehicle registration isn't designed to lay out and to inspect and find out whether or not you're a citizen of the United States. But nonetheless, they want that to be done automatically when you register your vehicle or register as a driver in a state. They also want same-day registration. In other words, they want somebody to show up at the polls, say that they are a registered voter, and be able to vote, and without a valid ID. Look, these are items that most of the states have looked at and have said, look, we want voter integrity, we want election integrity. We don't think there's any reason why the federal government should get involved and try to change what constitutionally our founding fathers thought was a very important issue that should be resolved at the state level as close to the local folks as possible. But once again, since it does not fall into the guidelines of some of our more liberal colleagues here, and they think that they want to liberalize these, and they don't like the fact that states even like New York don't like what they're proposing here. They want to mandate it on every single state in the union. It's wrong. They know they don't have the votes to be able to do this, but they want to use it as an excuse to end what we call the filibuster, or the requirement for consensus. We have to have at least 60 people agree to end debate and to move on to vote on a particular bill.
Yeah, we've talked about the critical role that the Senate plays in bringing really the nation to consensus as it rushes through the House, and oftentimes the passion of an executive. But the Senate is where you have to reach consensus so that you keep that political equilibrium. But this would actually undo what many states have had in place over the last several years, in particular, even this last year, where 19 states have adopted various reform measures to elections to ensure that it's easy to vote but difficult to cheat. So the process that is underway right now, as I understand it at Senator Rounds, is that they took a bill that was over in the House, they put these 2 bills in it, the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Amendment Act, into one bill. They sent it back over to the Senate, which circumvents the first 60-vote threshold. So this moves directly to the Senate floor, avoiding that initial filibuster. There'll be debate, but then before you can have a vote, if I'm not mistaken, Senator, there has to be that 60-vote threshold again. So we'll have a debate, but unlikely to ever have a vote on the bill. Is that correct?
That's correct. And what they've done, and this is a part of the rules in the Senate, if you have a bill which has already been ping-ponged back and forth between the House and the Senate, it makes it appear as though, since most bills don't totally change and become gutted with everything that was in the bill taken out and all new parts put back in. But that's what's happened in this particular case. They brought the bill back over. It was a bill that had left the House, came to the Senate, went back to the House, and now it's coming back to the Senate brand new. And it includes these two pieces of legislation that would change the way that elections are held in the United States today. When they get to the Senate now, it's on the floor, it's being debated right now, but they can't stop debate without filing cloture. And by that, it means having an agreement that at least 60 people believe that they're ready to move to a vote. That's the protection which is found within the Senate to, as our founding fathers said, slow things down, cool off the heat and passion of the House, and give everybody an opportunity to really reflect on whether or not this is good for the entire country. But you know, Tony, what's really interesting on this, two provisions that the Democrats' bill would force nationwide, same-day registration and no excuse absentees, they were just taken to the citizens of New York as ballot measures last November. They both lost. So the question is why are Democrats trying to reject the election results in states, including New York, overrule local officials, and then overturn the will of the voters? And yet this is what we find right now.
So when this vote, when they're not able to have the vote because they're not able to to end debate, is that going to be the trigger for the attempt to change the rules in the Senate?
There are several places where they could attempt to change the rules. That is one of them. They'll have the vote to begin with, and then once the vote fails, because we have both Senator Sinema and Senator Manchin have said they will not vote with their colleagues on the other side of the aisle. They believe the filibuster should stay in place. They'll vote no. And when that happens, then probably Senator Schumer will challenge the ruling of the chair that the vote failed, and he will ask for a vote on the filibuster itself, meaning changing it from 60 votes to 51 votes. And that'll be the key vote.
Be an interesting week, and the Senate will be watching it very closely. Senator Rounds, thanks so much for joining us today. Always great to talk with you.
Thank you for the opportunity, and stay tuned.
All right, we will.